Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're so excited to have another special live stream of Let Us Reason. And with us here, no other than AP, known as the Apostate Prophet. And many of you have seen him in his own, of course, work and channel. But recently, of course, with David Wood, they've been doing a debate, I guess, and we can talk about that during the show. But all that to say is we are thankful that his time permits him to be with us, and we appreciate the fact that he's willing really to be on different channels, including ours. And we want to just give him the opportunity to share with us about his own journey out of Islam. And with that in mind, I want to thank everyone who's joining us right now. Hopefully, you will find this particular show to be exciting and interesting. And obviously, we want to thank our moderators for the wonderful work they do. And everyone, please, if you have any specific question, keep it focused on the topic. And you know me, folks, if I see anyone who's coming here just to waste time, I'll use my magic finger and I will block you. And that's how things will go. With that in mind, AP, welcome and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Thanks for organizing this. It's really a pleasure. It's an honor to be here. We wanted to talk for quite a while now.
I know.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, AP, let's just assume, there are people here that really weren't aware of what you do, never heard of you. Let's just assume, hypothetically speaking. Why don't you go ahead and give us, just a little bit brief background about your upbringing? Where were you, raised? If you feel comfortable sharing names and locations, of course, and how were you raised, and so on and so forth.
Sure. I just want to say quickly, there is very heavy storm here. I don't know if it will affect my connection here. The light just blinked a little bit, just so you know. If I suddenly disappear, that's probably it.
No problem.
I hope nothing happens. So my name is Ridvan Aydemir. People usually know me as Apostate Prophet. That's how I made things popular. I am a former Muslim. I grew up in Germany mostly. I was born in Germany to a Turkish Muslim family, to a Sunni family that has that follows certain Sufi practices, and I was born in Germany, grew up in Germany, lived there for quite a while. And around the age of 16 or so, my parents decided that we should move to Turkey. So we did that. We moved to Turkey together. I tried to live there, tried to get used to the environment, became a little bit closer with a Muslim way of living because of my parents. At some point in Turkey, I went through, my late youth. I went through some journeys, tried to really find myself, tried to find where I belong, what I really want to identify with. I recently shared something happened around 2009, 2010. I had an aunt who was very close to me, and she was killed by her then husband, whom she tried to separate herself from and to divorce from. And and I was very close to her, and that kind of catapulted me into going more into things that I used to talk about with her. And we used to talk about religion sometimes. She was a very free-spirited woman. I admired that a lot. And we were talking toward the end of her life about religious lives, becoming religious, finding meaning and stuff like that. She was killed. It was very tragic. And not long after, I started turning toward religion for some strange reason, probably connected to that. Then I became very religious and practiced Islam very strictly for several years. Also joined one of those Sufi practices, was part of that for a brief time, but otherwise also kept reading about Islamic sources, Islamic books, thoroughly day and night, would pray, would try to tell others about my beliefs. I started reading the Quran, and that gave me problems. When I read the Quran, it started raising certain problems, certain questions in my head, and I I gave it a rest. I read the Quran again later on to confront those problems once more. I read it again later on, and eventually I left Islam with all the questions in my head that I had for years. And yeah, that's a very brief summary of my journey. And afterwards, I came to America. I met my wife. I started doing this online, and so on. Yeah.
I'm sorry, of course, about your aunt. That must have been really hard. And we all have, wonderful people in our life, regardless of the background, of course, and what they believe in. They still touch our life one way or another.
Mhm.
I remember the death of my father, who never, by the way, left Islam or even embraced Christ. In my case, has always been hard on me. I mean, I always remember, speaking of that, not only he died, but no one can tell me where he was buried. You know how Islam is. I don't know how it is in Turkey, of course, or in other parts of the Islamic world, but in Saudi, you get buried under dirt, and a piece of rock is put there. No name, no initials,
Oh, yeah.
nothing, and that's it. When I went to visit his grave, no one can tell me where. Till this day, I don't have closure to at least know where my father was. So it is hard for us, no doubt about that. So tell me then, you began to really feel trouble reading the Quran. So what happened next? I mean, how did that journey unfold?
Well, the thing is, I was kind of always between the good stuff that I learned in Germany, where I grew up. Whether it's the rights, the social things, the science, and all that, all the knowledge that I acquired in Germany, and then I find myself in Islam, which gives me a completely backward understanding of society, of the world around us, and all that. When I read the Quran, I stumbled upon so many parts of it that just made me think. I mean, I would understand if this was the word of Muhammad, but this is supposed to be the eternal verbatim speech of Allah, and there are many things in there that I just simply that I can't really feel comfortable with, like especially the science aspects and the treatment of women and of the disbelievers, especially things about science. To be very honest, bothered me the most at those times. I even remember it was Ramadan one time, and it was really hot, and I was walking outside. I was fasting, and while I was fasting, going somewhere, walking quite a distance, I was thinking about a certain thing about the sky, and the sky being held up and not being able to fall down because Allah holds it, or something like that, if I don't misremember this. But I kept thinking about this, and I was trying to tell myself to just shut up. I don't understand. I don't know. This is not for me to think about. If I do not know, then it's just because of my human weakness, my incapability to understand this. And I tried to ask others. I tried to find questions for a very long time, but it just did not work. And there was a time where I was in the military, because I had to go to the military in Turkey, where I thought to myself at some point that I need to find the courage and allow myself to think, because if Allah is truly the Almighty Creator who gave me this belief and this book to read, then would He really blame me for questioning and for going through with my questions, for allowing myself to indulge in those questions and trying to really find the true answer? I mean, I don't think He would blame me for doubting and for trying to find answers. And once I started going down that road, it was inevitable that I would eventually leave Islam. And I had a very specific moment where I told myself, I was very certain, and I had a specific moment where I said, I am no longer a Muslim. I don't believe in Allah anymore. I don't believe in Islam anymore. I am not a Muslim. And then that was it. Yeah, that was it with Islam.
So did you share that right away with others around you, like family members, or you kept it to yourself?
I didn't actually. I kept it to myself for a very long time, which was kind of it is stressful. It is a burden to keep that to yourself, but I did keep it to myself initially for a very long time. I don't exactly remember how long it took for me to open up about this stuff and to tell other people, but I never told my parents until years later. They only found out about my disbelief uh, 2 years ago or so. They noticed, of course, that I have become apathetic about religion, that I do not pray anymore, that I'm not interested in their practices anymore. It was inevitable for them to see that. But I kept, like, whenever they would try to talk about this, I would try to kind of evade the conversation. I would try to not talk about it, try to be like, just don't ask me these questions. Just let's talk about something else. And I would try to get away. And initially, I only opened up to other people that I knew, and especially to one person who was an atheist that I opened up to, and he just shrugged it off and said, "What's so problematic about it? Just don't believe in it. It's fine. I don't believe in it." And I was like, and I thought to myself, wait, it's that easy? I remember that, but yeah. It took a while. Yeah.
What made you think like it wasn't that easy? I mean, because I agree with you. I mean, just the very thought of leaving Islam was a nightmare for me. I mean, just when I started to doubt, it's like, wow, so what's going to happen to me now? And was I living a lie? And what about the people that I always convinced that Islam is the truth? I mean, did you start to question these kind of things?
I mean, you know very well. I mean, we learn from the very beginning of our lives, from a very, very young age. We are brought up with such fear that is incomparable to any other ideology, to any other religious belief. We are indoctrinated with so much fear that this is the absolute truth. You are never to doubt it. You are to believe it word for word. You are to follow it. You are never to question it. You are never to laugh about it. You are never to engage with other people who doubt it. You are to walk away from them. You are never to trust the disbelievers. The disbelievers want to lie to you. They want to pull you out of Islam because they're jealous. They will never like you unless you are one of them. And we hear these things from the beginning of our lives again and again, over and over again. And then these graphic descriptions of what will happen to us if we just doubt, if we just disbelieve, that we will be brutally tortured and skinned, and I don't know, it's unspeakable stuff if we if we just question it, if we don't believe. And then there is Muhammad's hadith who says that Satan comes with these questions, and if he comes, we should just say, I seek refuge with Allah, and then stop thinking. Like he directly encourages us to not think. And of course, then there are the other factors such as that Muslims in general have a very bad view of people who don't believe in Islam, and especially of people who left Islam. I learned in my religious time that leaving Islam is punishable by death, and that people have very problematic views about this, even in a country like Turkey, for example, which compared to other cultures, compared to other countries, is much softer, because people in Turkey don't really understand Islam very well. They're a mix of a very secular and a religious culture, but still the danger is there. After I left Islam, I learned, I heard somebody tell me something like, I will cut off your head and throw it onto the Taksim Square, which is the big square in Istanbul. And these things just made me keep it to myself. I never wanted to share it with my parents, of course, because my parents are very religious. They raised us in the hopes that we will be very religious, we will be very devout. They loved it when I was religious, and I thought they would be devastated if they hear that I don't believe. And they became devastated after they learned that I do not believe anymore, especially when they learned that I now openly speak against Islam. So it's just, I don't know, where do you stop? There is the danger, there is the fear, there is the reactions from those who love you, who will no longer love you, and who will no longer show you any kindness and closeness after you leave Islam. There's just too much to it, and I kind of took it all into account at some point and started just going out there. And now I see the consequences of it. So many people that I know, that I was close to in the past, act like they don't know me anymore. They don't respond to me anymore. It's really strange how this controls and defines your life in such a terrible way.
Yeah, it's interesting you say this, AP, because at least in Saudi, I'm trying to make a comparison here. People are so religious, and you can at least understand why they're so upset when you leave Islam. Mm-hmm. But there are other parts of the world, the Muslim world, where people are just culturally Muslim, put it this way. They're not denying Islam. But why would they get upset? Is it a nationalistic thing? Is it an identity thing? Why are they upset with you? I saw someone here, by the way, make an obscene comment I removed, but you can tell people are still upset.
Yeah. Well, there's this thing in Islam that being a Muslim is not just a choice. It is not just a personal belief. It's not a relationship between you and Allah or between you and Islam and the Prophet. It is your political identity. Islam is an entity. You are part of that entity if you are a Muslim. It is not up to you to simply choose to leave that. If you are a Muslim, then that means you are part of the Muslim nation, because it is Muslims against all the others. It is disbelief is one nation, Islam is one nation. If you belong to the nation of Muslims, then you must stay there. If you leave, if you speak against it, if you just doubt it, if you embarrass Muslims in public, then you have betrayed this nation. You have betrayed your identity. You have betrayed this big political entity. Leaving Islam does not simply mean no longer believing in Islam and turning your back on Allah. Leaving Islam means betraying yourself, betraying your family, betraying your friends, your community, betraying all the Muslims all around the world. And that brings nothing but hatred upon you with the way Muslims are brought up. So it is not their fault. It's just how it's just how people learn to think, and it's I don't know, it's upsetting, right?
It is. So at what point you felt comfortable to come out in public now and begin to talk as someone who left Islam?
Well, there was a point, I don't know, a few years after I left Islam, I started sharing it around with people around me, only with specific people around me. I was still very careful about sharing it with everybody. After some point, I kind of, I feel like I became a little bit crazy and thought, hey, I don't want to hide anything. I don't have anything to hide. I just want to, I'm not going to go out and say it to everybody, but if someone asks me, I will just say, hey, I don't believe. And it happened a few times, and I just got very strange reactions from people, even from the most secular, supposedly secular modern people. But it was in around 2016 that I decided that I was following social media accounts which criticize religion, and what I found there as I became an atheist, and what I found there is that the atheist community online mostly consists of simply people who criticize and basically satirize Christianity. There is no proper substance, no proper content that is about Islam, and if there is some content, then people usually don't really know very much. So I thought I care about this stuff, and I would like to go out there and to speak my opinion. And so I started on Instagram first, very small. I started sharing, I don't know, jokes, memes, and things like that. And eventually I decided, hey, I want to create a YouTube channel because I want to share this stuff. And I don't know, I never thought I would do this for this long, but yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Did you, I mean, after coming publicly about this, which is by the way, a very courageous move. No one can downplay that at all. Any of your friends or relatives, I mean, you don't have to say yes or no, but if you feel comfortable, came forward to you, even private, and say, you know what, I've been thinking this way, and now that you are speaking about it, hey, guess what? Let me share more of my doubts. You know, did that encourage any of them to begin to speak about it?
It happened with a few people. It was. I did not do this whole YouTube thing when I was still in Turkey. I wanted to make sure that I get away from Turkey. So I moved to America, where I am now. And only then did I start my whole YouTube journey. But after I started this, I was still in contact with certain people that I trusted, especially among my relatives. And there were indeed two people who I didn't want to approach them. I didn't want to talk with my relatives at all about this stuff. They know what I'm doing, but in private, I don't want to talk with them about this. But two people among them came to me and asked me why I'm doing this and what pushed me to no longer believing in Islam. And when I shared it, and especially one of those people, I gave them a book. I gave them the Quran and said, "Can you please just start reading this book? Start right here at the beginning of Surah Baqarah, the second chapter, basically the actual beginning of the Quran." And when they started reading, they thought, this sounds very ridiculous. It doesn't really sound very sophisticated, very mature. And I said, yeah, you see what I mean? You see what I mean? You see what I'm talking about? So I started showing different parts of the Quran and sharing different things. And that person did indeed agree with me that this religion is just a bunch of nonsense. And similar things happened with other people as well. So it does happen. It's an impact is being made. Yeah.
Yeah, I ask this because in our part of the world, in our culture, usually somebody's waiting for someone to be the first, before they start, sharing that, what, I have the same doubt, and I'm glad you're the first one to at least announce it. So now I'm behind you. I support with that. But even if they can find you in basically privately, it's kind of interesting, by the way. If I were to go and use Saudi as an example, if I were to go to my mother and say, hey, I became an atheist, she probably will say, oh, may God guide you. It's okay. It's just a phase you're going through. But the minute they find out, of course, that you accepted Christ, that's a whole different ballgame. But it sounded to me, from your perspective, that just saying I'm an atheist, that was problematic to begin with.
Well, so the thing is, I didn't tell my parents anything at all. As said, they found out. I actually shared this story online. I was supposed to go to Turkey. I was supposed to visit Turkey. I wanted to do that, and the day before I arrived there, my parents found out that I am no longer a Muslim and that I am also online criticizing Islam. And of course, that brought with it some big chaos, and we had to sit down and talk about all of that. And it severely damaged our relationship. It was like, I was thinking to myself, telling them that I left Islam will be extremely hurtful to them. Telling them that I don't believe in anything I don't believe in that I'm an atheist will be more hurtful to them. Telling them that I also, on top of that, decided to publicly criticize Islam will devastate them. That's what I thought. And as it happens, they found out all of that at once, and it didn't end very well. It's just, our relationship is severely damaged. But I think my mother would have rather wanted me to become a Christian than to become an atheist, because in their eyes, the Christians are ignorant idolaters, but at least they believe in something, and that's how they would view it. Yeah.
Well, hold your thought about that. I'm going to visit this question, but if I were to ask you right now, AP, tell me few of the passages or the verses or the stories that really were an eye popper for you from the Quran that kind of like sealed the deal for you. It's like, give me a break. I cannot believe something like this is written in here. Can you give us a couple of examples of those?
I would mostly think of the scientific things. Well, one of the things, social moral matter was the Quran chapter 4 verse 34 about beating your wives. Mm-hmm. That made me growing up in Germany and being totally like equal and good with women. When I read that, I thought to myself, this is very strange for me to accept. But mostly it was. There were several things. One of them was the whole story of Dhul Qarnayn going to the west and the east and finding the sun set in a muddy spring. I just kept looking at that and I thought to myself, this does not make sense. And I tried to find the answers to that, and the answers were just not satisfying. Like that this is not from Allah's perspective, that this is just a metaphor and all that. It just did not satisfy me, and it kept bugging me. One more thing was it was not a specific verse, but a collection of verses which basically describe that the sun is running through the sky to a specific stopping point. I just could not reconcile that with what I know about the world around us. And one more thing was Allah holding up the sky with pillars that you cannot see. I thought I didn't want to tell myself that is ridiculous, because I thought I cannot say that. But I just felt this deep conflict in my head going on with those verses. Yeah.
Right. And there are, by the way, some mythological things in the past that do represent somehow a figure or Allah or a giant holding the sky or pillars. But so it appears to me that the Quran just borrowed whatever knowledge was out there and pretended that it is divinely inspired. That's interesting. So you decided, to come forward, and you left Islam, and what do you focus on now that you're an apostate? Now that you are, I don't know, you call yourself atheist, maybe? What is it that you focus on when it comes to doing your shows? I mean, are these the areas that you talk about usually?
Well, I talk about many different aspects. I usually generally just want to talk about criticizing Islam. Sometimes I talk about religion, life, philosophy in general. I mostly want to focus on Islam, because I think, to me, Islam is problematic. I don't have a problem with religion in general. I say this very openly. I am technically an atheist in that I don't believe in a God. I usually don't really use the term atheist. I usually say I'm a post-theist. I'm beyond that. I don't really care that much about the distinction between theism and atheism. I don't really identify with that stuff. I am simply myself. I'm a free thinker, and what I want to do with this work that I'm doing online is simply to critically analyze Islam, because I think that Islam is particularly harmful and dangerous. Because I think it was personally harmful to me. It was severely harmful to the beginning, the middle, and the end of my life. It will be with me forever. It is very harmful to others. I know and see what it does to others. I see that Muslim apologists go out there presenting a completely corrupt, twisted form of Islam to sell it, and I want to go out and correct them and speak the truth about it. So this is what I'm doing. I focus on the moral aspects of Islam, the hate and the violence that comes from it, the scientific ignorance of it, the ignorance of the Quran, the Quran's ignorance of other religions like Christianity and Judaism, and so on. These are things that I pretty much focus on. Yeah.
And what do you think about those westernized Muslim Taoists? You have the Yasser Qadi, you have the Shabir Ali, who speak with confidence, and who present a whole different view of Islam, by the way, than the view that I grew up learning. Whatever they're saying, was that something that you grew up hearing, that, oh, it's okay, we understand that there are different ways to read the Quran or different ways to interpret it? Or was it like my way in Saudi? There's only one way, and it's a perfectly preserved book, and nothing in there that can lead you into questioning it, and so on and so forth?
Well, the issue is, the difference with me is that I grew up in a mostly non-traditional Muslim environment and understanding that nevertheless holds on to some very traditional fundamentalist perspectives and teachings. My family were Sufis, mysticists, who are contrary to these fundamentalist Salafis and Wahhabis and whatever you may call them. There is actually a hostility between them has been going on forever. But according to the understanding that I always learned when I grew up, we are supposed to have theological differences, or we have theological differences, like differences of understanding where Allah is, what His shape is, and this and that. But one thing that we are never supposed to do is to downplay and change our religion. We are supposed to stick to the truth and preach it openly and speak it openly and practice it openly as it is. And I learned to adopt certain beliefs, such as that, The whole thing about women, the whole thing about that the disbelievers are the enemies of Allah and the enemies of Islam, and that I'm not to befriend them. I learned this from a very young age, that I'm not supposed to befriend them, that I'm not supposed to be close with them, that I'm not supposed to trust them, and that corruptions of these messages are merely corruptions and are deviations from the true path of Islam. These are things that I learned. So when I now see that certain Islamic apologists and scholars come out and say, well, it's not really like that, then that just directly raises a red flag. And I feel like those people are not really following what I thought we should be following. And it looks like they're being sneaky. They are being dishonest about their religion for a specific purpose, for a specific agenda. That is definitely what I see.
Now, when you were growing up, did you go to Islamic schools or madrasas, or at least a mosque? And were you learning anything about Islam through these sources, or was it just from home and just from basic, traditional ways of understanding your background and your culture?
I would go to certain gatherings with my family that are not directly established schools, but that are kind of loosely organized Sufi groups, and there I would hear preachings, I would hear certain teachings, I would be taught and told how to understand and how to live Islam. I was also sent to a place, to the mosque, to learn the basics of Islam, to learn to read the Quran and this and that. I did not specifically go to an Islamic school. I only later in life, when I myself decided to become more religious, I started going regularly to a specific Sufi school to sit there and to get some intensive education about Islam, because I thought to myself that I am too late, that I wasn't religious enough in my youth. I need to learn everything now intensively. So I did that later in life. And that kind of really accelerated my path to leaving Islam, I think.
I hear you. I want to, of course, welcome everyone who's watching Sneakers Corner. Welcome to our show. I don't know if this is Mel or someone else, but we are so thankful, of course, for the work you guys do as well. So, AP, you said some things in the Quran were troubling to you. What about the hadith? I mean, did you get exposure to the hadith?
Yeah. The thing is, I had a very... this gets a little bit complicated. It needs a lot of background, but these fundamentalist Muslims or mainstream Sunni Muslims have a more strict understanding of how they read the hadith and what they classify as authentic and inauthentic, or reliable and unreliable. In the Sufi background, the hadith which you can consider reliable are much more than just these few hadith that fundamentalists have. And when I say few, I mean thousands. With our Sufist background, we had even more hadith that are much more ridiculous, such as dumb hadith that say stuff like that Allah created everything just for the sake of Muhammad, because he loved Muhammad so much, and things like that. So I grew up with those loving things, with certain lovely aspects of Allah and Muhammad and all that. But then later, of course, when I started studying Islam by myself and started reading the foremost fundamental sources of the hadiths, I immediately find myself looking into certain hadith which I often bring up nowadays, which are extremely problematic, about Muhammad's behavior towards others, about Muhammad's treatment of women, of his child marriage, of his hostilities, of his ludicrous statements about where the sun goes at night, and that it goes to prostrate itself under the throne of Allah and asks for permission to rise again in the morning, and one day it will not be given permission, and then it will go back and rise in the west, and things like that. And I don't know, there's just, the hadith are even more embarrassing than the Quran, I would say. The hadith are even harsher, even more violent and hateful than the Quran, and also to certain extents even more embarrassing than the Quran. Yeah.
Now, where I grew up, speaking against the Quran or possibly Allah, 50-50, people can still tend to forgive you. But speaking against Muhammad and the hadith was the most dangerous line you can cross. Is it the same?
Same
Even
thing.
though in a Sufi circle, was it the same?
Same thing, yeah. It is very strange, right? It's very strange how it gets there. But Allah is kind of a matter of of disagreement. Can be a matter of disagreement. Is not so sensitive. But when it comes to Muhammad, if there is anything offensive against Muhammad, then everyone goes nuts. That was the same thing in our circles. It was Muhammad was our honor, our pride. It cannot be touched. It's very weird. It's almost as if Muhammad is a demigod, a lesser god, or as if Muhammad is a god next to Allah, which is very ironic because the Quran accuses other religions of having taken their prophets and their priests as gods besides Allah, besides God. But in Islam, you have this sentiment that Muhammad must be protected and must be honored above everything and greeted and greeted all the time. And people go even more crazy about protecting Muhammad than about protecting Allah. It is really strange.
It is indeed. I mean, I see it even more vivid now than ever before. I mean, growing up, I never thought about these things. I mean, do you have these moments when you reflect back and say, how in the world did I even believe in something like this?
Yeah, same. No, I had the same thing. It's like you don't think about those things when you grew up with them because you are indoctrinated to believe a certain way and to consider that normal, to normalize that. But then when you get out of it and then look back and you see the problem right in front of your eyes, you think, wait, how did that happen? And how did I once believe that is normal? It is really strange.
Yeah. Do you mind if we take a quick question here? Our,
Sure.
one of our friends, Emily Upton, is asking you: do you get along better with Christians, atheists, or Muslims, or it really doesn't matter?
I mean, personally, it doesn't really matter. With my whole online thing, of course, it affects all my relationships. I'm just fine with atheists and Christians, who are the most understanding and the most the kindest usually. I don't, of course, I don't get very good reactions from Muslims, unfortunately. I don't know. I have no idea why.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, can you give us an assessment, of what's going on in a Muslim world in terms of just apostasy and leaving Islam? Do you have your hand on a pulse, for instance, in certain areas?
I used to follow it more closely in the past, but over the last decade, over the last years, especially since the world got a little bit closer to each other through social media and things like that, there has been a big rise in people who doubt Islam. In Turkey, I see that pop culture has changed a lot. It has become quite normal in Turkish popular culture to doubt Islam and to say that you are not a Muslim. That was not really a possibility just 10, 15 years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago. But it is becoming rapidly normal to express doubts and to say, hey, I don't believe in Islam. I'm an atheist, or I'm this, or I'm that. An atheist organization has been formed for the first time in Turkey and officially recognized, which is a first ever. People introduce different religions, people introduce deism, people discuss other religions. These things are going on, and certain religious figures, religious authorities are talking about how it is becoming a modern problem, that apostasy from Islam is rising among the youth. Atheism and deism are rising. Conversion to different religions, to Christianity and to other religions, is rising among the youth. Similarly, there have been a lot of reports from countries like Iran, for example, or even Saudi Arabia. I'm sure you've seen some reports over the last years where certain people have expressed that there is a dangerous rise of of apostasy going on. But there is some big change happening. I feel like the internet, social media, has definitely contributed to a big change in the world of Islam, and it will only get better, I think.
What do you attribute this? I mean, yeah, we're seeing large numbers, by the way, in Saudi and even in the MENA area, which is the Middle East and North Africa. I mean, in the hundreds of thousands leaving Islam. Now, that doesn't mean they're coming, by the way, to follow Jesus. That's not what I'm trying to say here, but they are leaving Islam. What do you attribute that to? I mean, especially among the young generation. I mean, is it shows like ours, work like David Woods and Sam Shamoun's? Is it them searching now and discovering these embarrassing things? And what are the factors that leads them to make these courageous decisions, by the way?
Well, I think that us and others going out here and speaking and criticizing Islam and offering these perspectives definitely helps. It definitely makes people think. I often see people say, I left Islam because of this and this show, or I left Islam because I listened to this and that person. I receive a lot of emails thanking me and others for them leaving Islam. But it is not only us. When we are one force, one drop, only one side of this whole thing that is going on. There is more to it. There is the fact that Muslims have been living in a very uninformed way up until now. Now with the spread of mass media, with the spread of the internet, with the spread of social media, people are communicating with other cultures and finding out about their beliefs. Since Islam has such an exclusivist, restrictive culture and religion, since Islam tells Muslims to stay among themselves, not to communicate with others, not to trust others, not to be with them. It held them in this box. It kept them there. But people are now finding opportunities to communicate with others and learning more about their cultures, which makes them curious about their cultures, which makes them question their own cultures and their own beliefs, which makes them want to be more like others. These things help, definitely. People are, most Muslims would never read or understand the Quran or the hadith. They would never know about the life of Muhammad. They are now finding out more about the contents of the Quran and about the history of Muhammad, the history of Islam, and finding out about these things. Just finding out about them, it doesn't even need criticism. Just finding out about them makes Muslims question. It contributes, all of that contributes to people leaving Islam. So the best thing we can do is to just spread more information, even if we do not criticize, even if we do not necessarily comment. Just spreading information does a lot to people who really need to see it, I think.
Yeah. I'll speak about Saudi. While it's clear that the Sharia law has laws against apostasy and so on and so forth, I give credit to the Saudi government that at least they let the family handle the affairs of their children leaving Islam, and especially become vocal. Is it the same where you grew up? I mean, or are there really strict laws to where they can arrest you and throw you in jail? Like, for instance, are you allowed to go back home?
Well, there's currently a thing going on against me. There's been an arrest warrant issued against me in Turkey. If I enter Turkey, I will be brought to court and have to basically explain why I said certain things. Leaving Islam is not a crime in Turkey. It is not punishable. Criticizing Islam is punishable under the guise of there is a specific law which is publicly insulting the religious beliefs held by a part of the population. That is the law. But the law is never used against people who criticize other religions or who insult other religions. People do that all the time. I belonged to certain groups that basically dehumanize Jews all the time, or that depict Christians as liars and demons and this and that. Nothing happens to them. But if you only criticize Islam, if you only say certain things about Muhammad, even if you just present facts, if you just say Muhammad was morally questionable, he married a child, that can be punishable and will be you will be called to court for that. And that is indeed the case with me. They want me to go to court and to give a statement just because I published a Turkish video in which I said that that Muhammad is not this beloved prophet that we have always learned about, but the prophet did some very questionable things like marrying a child. That is what they quoted, and they want me to go to court for that and possibly be punished with a prison sentence for up to 3 years or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Wow, that's interesting.
And that's supposed to be a secular country, you know.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, I mean, it seemed like not just in there, but in a lot of parts of the Islamic world, there is this shift now towards, more radicalized form of Islam. I mean, are you sensing that that's the case? Is it a reaction to what's happening?
There is. Well, the same thing kind of happened in the 20th century, didn't it? I mean, there was a revivalism going on in the Islamic world. The religious groups, religious people, kind of became upset that secularism and Westernization has weakened the Muslim world, which is why they wanted to violently or forcibly revive Islam and make everything more religious. It didn't work out. Now they're blaming it again on secularism and on Westernization. Now they're wanting to revive Islam again. The same thing is happening in Turkey. In Turkey, it's a little bit different because Turkey was secularized through the Turkish Revolution in the early 20th century, and the secularization brought with it certain laws which closed down religious institutions in Turkey, which banned religious clothing, which basically pushed religion into the background, and which aimed to secularize, to modernize, and to westernize Turkey. So the religious part of the population, the religious sentiments, were kind of suppressed in Turkey over 50 years or more. And now those sentiments are slowly regaining their power. And the religious part of the population is trying to basically take revenge and trying to impose Islam again on the state and on society. The issue is that they are slowly and mildly trying to do this, but the more they're trying to do this, the more they are upsetting large parts of the population. The more they are pushing younger people away from Islam, the more they are making people hostile toward Islam. This is simultaneously going on while the revivalism is happening. So when I look at it, what I see, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, is that the state is trying to go toward political Islam, but the people are the more being pushed away from Islam, and the more they want to go toward modernization and secularism. And I would think that the future will be better because of that. I hope I'm not wrong. I don't know.
Interesting. What kind of reaction you got by way of Muslim reactions in general? Do you receive threats? Do you receive any accusations that prompt maybe YouTube and others to harass you and things like that?
Yeah. Well, I've been dealing with bans forever, being banned from this platform, being banned from that platform, being kicked out from this platform, people asking YouTube to ban me, asking Patreon to ban me, asking all these platforms to ban me. That kind of made me just not post on many of these social platforms anymore. I only post on YouTube. This is where I am. But of course, I get these terrible communications all the time. At the beginnings, they would stress me out a little bit. These constant death threats, these things like "I'm coming for you, I will find you, I will do this and that to you." Meanwhile, I don't even care anymore. It's kind of it's weird to say. It's strange and sad that it happens like this, but I meanwhile just ignore these violent threats and things that I get. I'm like, I see someone say, "I will find you and I will kill you," and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't even look at it anymore. It's just I just put it away. I talked to the FBI before about these things. Actually, they found me and they asked me to send them a lot of things. I did, but then at some point I thought, man, I can't send them every communication that I get. That. So yeah, I got used to it. I mean, what can you do?
I hear you. I mean, I feel for of course for you because you have a family as well, and sometimes it puts stress on the whole family.
Yeah.
But I hope everyone is understanding that there isn't really anything that you're doing that other than hash bash talk. Hopefully that's what it is. But you have to take it seriously sometimes. So give me a second here. We have Jojo. Jojo 88, I think you need vacation. Remember my magic finger? Here it is. It's at work right here. Yep. So he is taking a vacation right now to think about what he says. So let me ask you this question, and really don't take it the wrong way. I mean, I'm just listen. There's a lot of people that love you. I'm one of those people that love you, respect you, and to me, you're just a courageous person who can
Thank you.
even come out and say things with a very open mind. You're not saying anything wrong. I mean, you're just speaking the obvious, but you are representing probably many who are encouraged by your move. But obviously, I just want to ask, what is stopping AP from taking the next step, for instance, to know about Christ? Not a religion called Christianity, but knowing about Christ. I mean, if you feel comfortable answering this question, please do. If not,
Sure, it's fine.
don't worry. I'm not trying to put you on a spot here.
No, it is fine. It's totally fine to ask that question. The thing is, after I left Islam, I didn't immediately stop believing in God altogether. I wasn't entirely sure whether there is a God or not and what I'm supposed to believe in. It took me about a year to decide that I am simply an atheist. But back then, at that time, I think that was, 2015 or so. At that time, I just thought, I guess this is what it is. I guess there is no God. I guess I don't believe in God. Over the years, I kept thinking about it and kept questioning. Especially, there was one time where there was a certain phase where where I started having major depression and major anxiety attacks. I started having anxiety symptoms, probably caused by a lot of things that I do here and a lot of things that happened in my life. And during that phase, I even sympathized with Christianity and with the Bible and the Gospels, the message of Jesus. And I wanted to I thought to myself, I wish I could just accept, and I wish I could just believe. So I subjected myself a little bit to the teachings of Christianity and the teachings of the Gospels and of the Bible, and I read through them and I thought about them. And the issue was, in the end, I simply could not find myself believing in it. Most importantly, I could not find myself believing in the idea that there is a God, or that there is a specific God, that there is one God who created everything, who will hold us accountable, that we have a responsibility to, and all that, based on many different reasons, such as that. Very simply said, I didn't think there was any reason for us to assume that there is a God. I simply do not see any convincing argument. I don't see any proper evidence. Things like that. I don't know. I'm still debating this whole idea. I'm debating God and Christianity with Christians and with others as well. I've recently started debating Christians on this issue, who have been mostly very, very nice to me. I wish I could do the same thing with Muslims. But yeah, so I thought about it. I tried it, but I just cannot believe in it. And though I have certain disagreements with the teachings and the morals of Christianity, it is mostly just about the fact that I simply am not convinced that it is true. And if I'm not convinced that it is true, if I do not believe in it, if I cannot believe in it, then it would be hypocritical and false of me to assume a certain religion or a certain belief. I mean, that's what I would think. I would be betraying myself.
Well, I asked this question because again, please don't take it the wrong way. I care for your soul, and you're someone who can be very valuable in the kingdom for the work that you do. Have you ever considered Thomas Aquinas' work on the existence of God?
I have, yeah. I've looked into it before. I've looked into it many different perspectives. I have, yeah. But yeah, I really could not convince myself, especially about a certain thing, which is the problem of the afterlife, the problem of hell. I know there are alternatives to the belief of hell, alternatives that I do not think are very well substantiated and supported scripturally seen. Which just leave hell, and I simply cannot accept the idea of that as reasonable. I don't think it is just it's not like a boo-hoo hell. It is more like, I think that the idea of hell, or the idea of the afterlife, or the idea of judgment in the afterlife, the idea of a temporary life and then the afterlife, is simply, in my opinion, inconsistent with the morality of God himself and with the logic of the religion that we are preached about, is what I think. And I looked into the theodicies and into the possible answers. I could not find a satisfying answer so far. I will go on and debate these ideas for a long time. I like doing it. So, but I understand why you're asking. I understand your good will. It's totally fine.
Appreciate that. So what is AP working on these days?
Right now, I've really gotten back to publishing a lot of videos. I've published more videos in the last 1 week than I published in the previous month. I'm really getting into this right now. I took a little bit of a break. Was doing a lot of other things. I want to get back to publishing. I don't know, 2 videos every week about criticizing certain aspects of Islam. I'm doing a lot of things with David Wood right now. We will be coming out with certain videos about science and Islam. We will be debating each other about morals and Christianity. And I'm currently writing a book, which is supposed to be a comprehensive, long, thorough critical analysis and refutation of the religion of Islam. I'm very excited about that. That's one of the major things that I'm currently working on. Yeah,
that's cool. I'm asking because I would love really to invite you to do professional video series with us as well.
I would love to.
Obviously related to Islam in this case, all aspects, whether science and other things like that. So we need to really talk about that and see if your schedule permits. Obviously,
I would love that. I would love that. Yeah, it's an honor. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Let me, if anyone has any more questions, by the way, I did see questions that tend to be political. I'm not going to put you in that position, brother. And also, I refuse to get into politics. This is not about politics. This is just about, 2 men talking about their spiritual journey, and we want to keep it that way. We don't want to jeopardize your safety, my safety, the safety of your family. You're already under a lot of stress and pressure from that aspect, so we need to not to add to that. And I appreciate the questioner's understanding of why we did not really touch some of those questions. If there is any more questions for AP while we have him in here, meaningful questions based on what you've heard or based on what you know about him, please go ahead and ask these questions right now. While they're doing that, recently you and David have been doing kind of like a debate, if you wish. I mean, people sometimes take it seriously and they send me notes. It's like, what's going on between the two of them? I'm like, guys, please, they're just doing something educational here. That's what's going on.
Yeah, David and I have a nice way of communicating with each other. we engage in serious discussions, but at the same time we mock each other jokingly, kind of supposedly humiliate each other because we're trying to kind of imitate those who do those things to us from the Islamic camp. It is all fun. It's all good. It's all enjoyable to us. But so while joking about finishing and destroying each other and all that, David and I are currently basically debating whether morality or moral obligations come from God or whether they are natural or whether they are man-made. And that is basically the debate that we are having with David right now. We're having this back and forth. I'm waiting for him to respond. He's probably scared to respond. And yeah, that's what we're doing. David is, I have a good relationship with David going on. We have we do good work together. I like his stuff a lot, so we will be doing a lot of great stuff in the future. People shouldn't be surprised when we sometimes seemingly attack each other.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it, but sometimes people, for some reason, panic. So we have a William Lynn, not William Lane Craig. Okay, It could be William Lane Craig and just hiding the last name, is saying, does AP believe in the existence of evil? Now that you mentioned morality and things like that, what are your thoughts about that?
Very complicated, very deep, very long topic. If I say something, when I say something, it's usually taken the wrong way. Maybe I need to find a better way to explain it. But what I would say is that the concept of evil itself is a human construct made by humans to define and to explain certain things which they consider harmful to themselves or to others in a certain way, based on specific understanding, specific goals that they have. So insofar, I don't think that there is a certain objective evil in the world. I also don't think that there is an objective good in the world. There are just certain things that humans perceive as good or perceive as bad based on social situations, based on their own needs and their surroundings. And based on that, people establish certain constructs like good and evil. And when I say that, I don't mean that good and evil are human constructs and therefore unnecessary or meaningless. What I'm saying is they make these human constructs for a reason. They are useful, they are good. That's basically what I think, but needs much more elaboration, I said.
No problem, no problem. Someone asked, if you were to list the top one or two reasons, if you were to ask a Muslim to consider leaving Islam, or ask a Muslim to consider exploring these things, what are the top one or two things you think that should be an eye opener for a Muslim, for instance?
Well, I think one of the things that needs to be brought up to Muslims, which people do not bring up enough, is the historicity of the Kaaba, because I think we're not talking about it enough, but the Kaaba should be a deal breaker. It should be like, it should destroy Islam's legitimacy, because the Kaaba is the whole story about how the Kaaba is the house of Allah and how it was established by Abraham, and all that nonsense is completely unfounded and is very easily debunked. If we want to trust evidence, then the vast majority of evidence points at the fact that the Kaaba was simply a pagan temple which was only adopted by this syncretic Islamic belief which Muhammad himself established because he didn't know anything else. And bringing up the Kaaba and going into the history of it and into different sources of it should really raise certain questions. I see that it does raise questions with Muslims. One other thing is, this is very specific, but the Quran has a bad misunderstanding of the two Marys, the Mary, mother of Jesus, and prophetess Miriam. It confuses them as one and the same person, and that I think should be deeper explored. And it really reveals that the Quran has no idea what it's talking about. And one other thing, as always, is science in the Quran. There is an abundance of scientific errors, embarrassing scientific errors in the Quran. Yeah, those are the three that I would mention.
That's wonderful. Of course, you mentioned very important reasons, undoubtedly. Someone was asking, have you ever read the Bible while you're a Muslim or even after leaving Islam?
I have. I have indeed. I did indeed read the Bible. I wanted to start kind of chronologically. I started with the Old Testament. I started reading Genesis after I left Islam. I think, I don't know, maybe I started with it when I was still a Muslim or when I was questioning. But I remember reading it back then, or having a Bible and beginning to read it after I left Islam even more. And then I realized, I had this realization, thought, wait, this is nothing like what we as Muslims learned. This is nothing like that, like what we thought the Bible is. And it is completely, there's a great discrepancy between how this book tells things and how the Quran talks to us. I only read bits of it. Much later, I read the Gospels, bits of the New Testament. I never read the Bible entirely through, but I just read parts of it. I read Ecclesiastes recently, which I find is a very nice book in the Bible. I think it's so far my favorite.
So you didn't read in Ecclesiastes, for instance, that Solomon's talked to ants, right? Scientifically speaking.
No.
Yeah, that was an interesting. I mean, I've always, read that story, and I was like, "Wow, how does he talk to ants? Wow, that's really fascinating." It's like,
there are such weird things that we are told about in the Quran, and the funny thing is, when you are brought up with these teachings that come from the Quran about biblical characters, about Abrahamic characters, you are made to think that these are normal things that Christians and Jews believe in as well. And then when you go out of that and you start understanding what Christians and Jews believe in, you realize that it's not true. Christians and Jews don't believe in all these ridiculous things. These are just Islamic stories that Islam gave us. It's really strange. I don't know.
Amen. You have a message from Almir here. I don't know if he wrote it maybe in Turkish,
Yeah.
But Almir is a dear brother also. He's not that far from your former nation, by the way. That's where he comes from, part of Central Asia, and he's a believer in Christ, also an ex-Muslim. I want to thank him for his super chat. Thank you to everyone, by the way, for your super chat. Sometimes it's hard for me. By the time I get to your super chat, folks, it will be done. So I can't really find it after that. So I know the team always is making an effort to reference that. Someone was also asking, do you sense like maybe your parents slowly and gradually might soften their stance against you? Or do you feel like this is a hard line that you crossed the line with them and they're really not going to change their mind now?
Well, I don't know how much I want to talk about that, but
no, we don't want to put you in a tough position, my friend. I mean, I just want whatever you feel comfortable.
I mean, it definitely severely harmed damaged our relationship. I still talk to my mother, and she was understanding in a certain way. I mean, she was very, very, very upset. She is still very upset. I realize whenever I talk to her, she just sounds different. There's just this sadness in her voice. It's almost like I died or something like that. But she told me she will just love me as her son no matter what, although she severely disagrees with these things. Sometimes she wants to talk to me, but she doesn't. With my father, it's very different. I think I don't know if he will ever accept this whole new reality, but so far it hasn't been. He has not accepted it. He hasn't really dealt with it well at all. I think I didn't even talk to him ever since the last time, since he found out that I left Islam, and it's been like 2 years or so. Yeah.
It is tough, my friend. I can relate to some of these. I can see the hurt in your voice, and I'm sorry I didn't mean to put you in.
No, it's okay.
But let me ask another question. What do you think is the reason why Muslims just get irritated? If you're communicating things, I mean, even if they're culturally Muslim, even if they don't even know half of what you're trying to share with them about Islam, why do you think they just react this way? Is it just out of fear that someone else will find out that they're doubting like you, or do they really mean their attacks against you?
Well, on one hand, they have this. They perceive this duty that they have they have to defend the honor of their belief of Islam and the honor of the Muslim community and the honor of Muhammad and Allah and the Quran. They perceive this childish, ridiculous duty that they have to do this. That's what makes them angry. I felt the same thing when I was a Muslim. I felt like when somebody was offending Islam or saying something about Allah and Muhammad, I felt like I have to step in and I have to save the honor of Islam. It's so dumb when I think about it now. But I think that is definitely one major motivator. But they're also very much afraid of doubts. And as a Muslim, you grew up fearing the idea of doubts, the idea of thinking differently. And when you poke them with doubts, it causes severe distress, which makes them not react very well. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Indeed, my friend. Well, we will definitely lift you up in our prayers as always. you are nevertheless a warrior out there who is speaking out against a force that unfortunately does not believe in openness or freedom. We all know that.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to future collaborations together here in live streams, and also doing professional, videos in our studios, which we will talk about. And
I would love
see
that.
if we can arrange something like that. Any last thoughts? Any last words you have to Muslims who will be watching this undoubtedly?
Thanks, first off, so much, and thanks everyone for joining. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you, Fadi, for inviting me. I just want to say one certain thing, which is that when we disagree with each other, especially to Muslims, when we disagree with each other and when we criticize each other's beliefs and analyze each other's beliefs, and in this case, I want to pay attention to the fact that I am merely criticizing my own former belief, not someone else's belief. When we have these disagreements, then it may look like we hate each other. It may look like we have to hate each other and have to attack each other and have to be brutally hostile with each other, but that's not really the way. That's not how it is supposed to be. There is no harm. There should be no harm in coming together and talking about our differences and solving them properly without trying to humiliate and destroy or otherwise cause damage and harm to each other. I think it would be fantastic if we could simply sit down and talk about our differences. I have no reason to hate Muslims. I know many Muslims that I love very much, including my own parents and people from my past. I have no reason to hate them. I do not hate them. I understand where they are coming from. I think they are greatly mistaken with their beliefs and with their attitudes. I would like to change them. I would like to show them a different way to think and a different way to live. I think it would be in their best interest and in the best interest of everyone, including of me and of all humanity. Hating is not the way. You don't have to hate me. I don't have to hate you. Let's just sit down and have conversations. And it is also not bad to have doubts. If Allah created us, according to the Islamic belief, if Allah created us and if He gave us the capability to doubt and to think, then there shouldn't be a problem with allowing ourselves to think and to doubt. That's all I want to say. And thanks, and stay away from Islam, as I always say.
Good advice. Thank you so much for that. Folks, Sam Shamoun will go live in about an hour and 45 minutes from now, which will be 7 p.m. Eastern time. And what is he going to talk about? You go and find out for yourself. And behave, because he can block you. And Sam wanted to be like an admin on my channel. I told him, are you crazy? You're going to block me myself from my channel if I make it. But we had a wonderful session last night. It was amazing. Bless you, folks, and bless Sam, bless David, bless you. We pray for you, brother. We want you to, finish the journey. So we're hopeful that will happen. We're looking.
Sam should take care of the saints of Sam. By the way, should be careful about the saints of Sam. Should tell them to calm down.
The saints of Sam. Okay, yeah, I've been seeing that SOS. I mean, I really don't know what exactly is going on there, but
yeah, he knows.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, my friend. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you to our amazing moderators, and I will be remiss if I don't thank Sister Netta for arranging for this. It's been really, definitely quite a journey, and we're thankful that we finally found the time to do this. And hopefully, this is the beginning of many. It's my dream really to have you and David even here together as a panel discussion. So we'll work on that. Once I put my mind on something, I'll do whatever it takes to get it done. So we'll see. I'm praying that David will respond to my text messages now. So he hasn't.
Yeah,
I hope so. Like he's busy. He's definitely busy.
He always is. Yeah, sometimes he's very hard to reach, very hard to respond. I don't know.
Yeah. Very good. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, my friend. This is Al Fadi, over and out. God bless. Take care.